911, what's your emergency?
The ORCA tank. It's one of the trainers. He's under. Oh.
Sir, please calm down. Who is under? What's happening?
Keto pulled him under. He's not coming up.
Sir, is the orca still aggressive? Are other people in danger?
I don't know. He's motionless. Oh no, no, no! He's gone! Please, hurry! He's not breathing!
Imagine for a moment the vibrant hum of a place designed for joy. The sun-drenched paths of Laurel Parquet, the excited chatter of families, the thrilling splash of a perfectly choreographed show. Now imagine that joy dissolving into a chilling scream. A moment when the majestic beauty you've come to admire transforms into an instrument of terror, and a life full of passion and promise is extinguished in an instant. It's a fear we all carry, isn't it? The fear of loss, the sudden, brutal snatching away of someone you cherish. Someone who simply went to work one day and never came home. This isn't just a story about a marine park or an animal attack. It's about the fragility of life, the hidden dangers in even the most controlled environments, and the devastating ripple effect when the unthinkable becomes horrifying reality. On Christmas Eve 2009, beneath the seemingly serene surface of an orca tank in Tenerife, that fear became a chilling truth. The crystal clear water of the orca tank shimmered under the artificial lights, a deceptive veil over the immense power it contained. Inside, Alexis Martínez moved with practiced ease, his commands echoing through the underwater microphones. He was a natural, they said, a young man with an almost uncanny connection to the ocean's giants. His journey to this point had been one of unwavering dedication, a childhood dream realized through years of study and tireless work. Born and raised in Tenerife, the call of the Atlantic was in his blood. He spent his youth mesmerized by the tales of seafarers and the incredible marine life that thrived just off the island's shores. He remembered countless hours spent on the coastline, gazing out at the vast blue expanse, dreaming of the creatures that dwelled beneath. This fascination blossomed into a career, a passionate pursuit that led him to Laurel Parquet, a place where he could work hands-on with the very creatures that had captivated his imagination. For 5 years, Alexis poured his heart and soul into his role as an orca trainer. His days were a rhythmic dance with these colossal mammals. He'd arrive before dawn, the quiet park slowly stirring to life, and begin his routine, preparing their food, checking on their health, observing their sleep patterns. Every interaction was a learning opportunity, a chance to deepen his understanding of these complex beings. He understood their intricate social structures, their individual quirks, their immense intelligence. To him, they weren't just animals. They were partners, albeit powerful ones demanding respect and understanding. He saw the gleam in their eyes, the subtle shift in their posture, the way they seemed to communicate beyond mere commands. His colleagues admired his calm demeanor, his patient approach, even when an animal was being particularly stubborn or playful. He was known for his gentle touch and his ability to build a rapport even with the most challenging individuals in the pod, often spending extra time observing and adapting his techniques. He spent countless hours studying their behavior, learning their cues, anticipating their moods. He knew the distinct vocalizations each orca made, could tell when one was feeling playful or perhaps a little agitated. His life revolved around the rhythm of the park, the daily routines of feeding, training, and caring for these magnificent animals. He often spoke of the deep bond he felt, a connection that transcended the boundaries between species, a silent understanding built on trust and mutual respect. He believed fiercely in the park's mission of education and conservation, seeing the shows as a vital platform to raise awareness about the plight of marine life in the wild, hoping to inspire awe and a sense of responsibility in the thousands who visited. He saw himself as an ambassador, bridging the gap between humans and these mysterious ocean dwellers. His future seemed inextricably linked to these ocean giants, a path he had chosen with open eyes and a devoted heart, never imagining the profound darkness that lay hidden beneath the surface of the seemingly perfect bond. Keto. The name itself held a certain weight, a primal resonance. A large male orca, powerful and imposing, even amongst his own kind. He wasn't born in the wild, his origins lying within the controlled environment of another marine park SeaWorld, before being leased to Laurel Parquet as part of their breeding and display program. This detail alone added a layer of complexity to his story, a life spent entirely within the confines of human care, never knowing the vast, open expanse of the ocean where his ancestors roamed freely. Orcas, the apex predators of the ocean, are creatures of vast, open waters, their lives in the wild defined by intricate social bonds, complex communication, and the freedom to roam hundreds of miles daily, hunting and playing across entire coastlines. In captivity, their world shrinks dramatically. Their natural behaviors, honed over millennia of evolution, the deep dives, the complex hunts, the intricate social interactions within a true pod can become stifled, leading to potential frustration, stress, and in some cases, unpredictable aggression. Keto was a prime example of the sheer size and power of these animals. Adult male orcas can reach lengths of up to 30 feet and weigh several tons, their bodies built for incredible speed, agility, and immense strength. Their intelligence is equally remarkable, with complex problem-solving abilities, sophisticated communication through a variety of clicks, whistles, and pulsed calls, and strong familial bonds within their pods. In the wild, they hunt cooperatively, displaying intricate strategies to catch their prey, demonstrating a level of cognitive function that rivals many primates. Warnings about the potential dangers of interacting closely with captive orcas were not entirely absent within the industry. While marine parks often emphasize the safety protocols and the deep understanding trainers had of these animals, there were documented incidents, whispers of aggression, and growing concerns raised by animal welfare advocates about the inherent risk involved. The sheer size and power disparity alone presented a constant underlying danger. A human, no matter how skilled or experienced, was simply no match for an animal of Keto's proportions. The unnatural environment of captivity, the limitations on their natural behaviors, and the potential for chronic stress were all factors that could contribute to unpredictable behavior in even the most seemingly well-adjusted orca. Keto, despite years of training and countless successful performances, remained a creature whose fundamental instincts belonged to the open ocean, a world vastly different from the confines of his artificial lagoon. And that difference sometimes could be deadly. The relationship between Alexis and Keto, like all trainer-orca partnerships, was built on a foundation of trust and carefully established routines. But beneath the surface of synchronized movements and learned behaviors lay the inherent unpredictability of a wild animal in captivity. There had been subtle signs, fleeting moments that in hindsight might have been interpreted as warnings, small deviations from the expected. A slightly delayed response to a hand signal, a brief moment of disinterest in a toy, or a breach that seemed a little too close, a little too forceful. These were often dismissed, attributed to a momentary lapse in focus or the natural variability of animal behavior, perhaps even a sign of playfulness. He's just being an orca, they might say, brushing off the unease. The pressure to deliver flawless, exciting performances for the paying crowds was immense. The shows were the lifeblood of the park, the main attraction that drew in visitors and funded its operations and conservation efforts. This pressure could sometimes lead to a subtle erosion of strict safety protocols, a normalization of potentially risky interactions in the pursuit of a more spectacular show. The boundaries sometimes blurred. The emphasis was often on the bond, the connection, the seemingly harmonious relationship between trainer and orca, downplaying the inherent risks associated with interacting so closely with such powerful animals. The withholding of food rewards, a common training technique, while effective in shaping behavior, could also be a source of frustration for the highly intelligent orcas. These animals were accustomed to a consistent pattern of behavior and reward, and any deviation could potentially lead to confusion, annoyance, or even resentment. They were complex beings, capable of holding grudges, capable of reacting to perceived slights. The very nature of their captivity, the repetitive routines, the limited space, the separation from their natural social structures, and the vastness of the ocean could all contribute to an underlying level of chronic stress that might manifest in unexpected and explosive ways. The trainers, for all their experience and dedication, were still operating within a system that inherently constrained these magnificent creatures. The line between a trusting partnership and a potentially dangerous situation was often a delicate one, a tightrope walk over an abyss of raw power. And sometimes that line could be crossed in an instant, with devastating consequences. December 24th, 2009, Christmas Eve, a day that began with the usual pre-show preparations, a sense of anticipation for the festive performances. The air was crisp, filled with the faint scent of pine needles and chlorine. Alexis, like his colleagues, felt the holiday spirit mixed with the focused energy of a demanding workday. He entered the water with Keto for a rehearsal, the routine, familiar, almost second nature. The stadium was quiet, save for the hum of the filtration systems and the splash of the orcas. But today something felt subtly different. Perhaps it was an almost imperceptible shift in Keto's demeanor, a slight hesitation in his response to a command, a stiffness in his movements that wasn't usually there. Reports later suggested that Keto had failed to perform a trick to the expected standard, a complex jump or perhaps a specific vocalization. And as per established protocol, Alexis had withheld the usual food reward. In that moment, a crucial element of their established dynamic shifted. The frustration, a feeling perhaps amplified by the unnatural environment and the repetitive nature of captivity, may have begun to brew within the massive orca. A flicker of something, perhaps defiance, perhaps irritation, crossed the animal's powerful features. The rehearsal continued, but the earlier missed cues seemed to linger in the air, an almost invisible tension. Then, with terrifying speed, the familiar routine shattered. It wasn't a slow buildup, not a drawn-out struggle, but an instant, brutal transition. In a swift and shockingly forceful movement, Keto pulled Alexis underwater. The cold water closed over him, the artificial sounds of the park replaced by the muffled roar of the captive ocean, the terrifying sensation of being dragged down by an unstoppable force. For the spectators, a handful of early park visitors and fellow trainers, watching from the side of the pool, the initial moments were likely filled with confusion, a disbelief that what they were witnessing was actually happening. Is this part of the show? Some might have wondered, their minds struggling to process the sudden violence. But the prolonged absence of Alexis from the surface quickly turned that confusion into stark terror. A collective gasp, then frantic shouts erupted from the observation deck. Then came the second, even more devastating act of aggression. Keto rammed Alexis in the chest with immense, unimaginable force. The impact was brutal, the power of the multi-ton animal colliding with the fragile human body. A sickening, muffled thud that some witnesses claimed to hear even above the surface. According to a chillingly detailed confidential incident report, Alexis never resurfaced after this initial, devastating attack. The force of the impact, the crushing pressure against his internal organs, the sudden deprivation of oxygen, it would have been instantly debilitating. Within a horrifyingly short span of approximately 40 seconds, Alexis Martínez was reportedly seen motionless on Keto's rostrum, the orca's snout, a macabre trophy in the murky water. The vibrant colors of the water park, the festive decorations, the anticipation of holiday cheer, all were instantly stained by the grim reality unfolding in the orca tank. The rehearsal had become a nightmare, a stark and brutal display of the raw, untamed power held within these captive giants. A life in the blink of an eye, extinguished. The scene that followed was one of utter chaos and frantic desperation, a blur of motion and raw emotion. Alarms blared, their piercing wail cutting through the festive atmosphere of the park. Fellow trainers, their faces etched with horror and disbelief, scrambled to react, their years of emergency training kicking in amidst the shock, but their actions hampered by the sheer, unmanageable power of the situation. The initial 911 call, made by a park employee, would have been a frantic jumble of words, the urgency of the situation palpable in the caller's voice, tinged with hysteria. "Trainer down! Orca attack! He's not surfacing!" The festive backdrop of the park, the brightly colored banners and cheerful Christmas music, became a grotesque contrast to the unfolding tragedy. Park staff rushed to the scene, their efforts to intervene likely hampered by the sheer size and unpredictable behavior of the agitated orca. The massive animal continued to move erratically, churning the water, making any rescue attempt incredibly dangerous. Witnesses, the handful of tourists who had come to witness the majesty of these creatures, were now confronted with a scene of unimaginable horror. Their initial awe turned to wide-eyed terror, their screams mixing with the blare of the alarms. Children who moments before had been pointing and giggling at the graceful animals now clutched their parents, their faces pale with fright. The air would have been thick with fear and confusion, the scent of chlorine suddenly acrid. Medics arrived swiftly, their sirens wailing through the park, but the prognosis would have been grim from the outset. The sheer force of the orca's attack left little hope. The type of injuries sustained were immediately apparent. The removal of Alexis's body from the water would have been a delicate and immensely difficult operation, requiring immense caution due to the still agitated orca. Every movement was fraught with peril. The silence that fell over the area after Alexis was finally recovered was profound, a heavy blanket of grief and shock. The immediate aftermath was a blur of hushed whispers, shocked faces, and the grim reality of a life brutally cut short. The park, moments before filled with laughter and excitement, now fell into an eerie, almost sacred silence, the festive spirit extinguished by the devastating events in the orca tank. News of the incident spread quickly among staff, then through hushed phone calls, finally reaching the wider public in a sickening wave of disbelief. The autopsy report painted a gruesome, uncompromising picture of the trauma Alexis Martínez endured. The clinical details: massive internal bleeding, multiple compression fractures to the ribcage and sternum, extensive tears to vital organs, including the lungs and heart, underscored the sheer, crushing force of Keto's attack. It was a stark, undeniable refutation of Laurel Parquet's initial characterization of the death as a mere accident with no signs of violence on the body. This contradiction immediately raised uncomfortable questions about transparency, the accuracy of initial statements, and the internal handling of such a catastrophic incident. The truth, as revealed by the cold, hard facts of the autopsy, was far more brutal. The news of Alexis's death, while significant within the marine park industry and in Spain, was somewhat overshadowed by the subsequent and highly publicized death of SeaWorld trainer Dawn Brancho just 2 months later, on February 24, 2010, involving the infamous orca Tilikum. Both incidents chillingly involved orcas owned by the same company, SeaWorld, and ignited a fierce global debate about the safety of keeping these powerful animals in captivity and the inherent, undeniable risks faced by their trainers. While the world's attention largely focused on the tragedy at SeaWorld, the death of Alexis Martínez served as a stark, earlier reminder that this was not an isolated incident, not a one-off anomaly. It was part of a disturbing pattern: the temporary suspension of water work with orcas by SeaWorld Parks Entertainment. Across all its facilities in the immediate aftermath of Brancho's death spoke volumes about the internal recognition of the potential dangers that Alexis's death had also highlighted. For Laurel Parquet, the consequences were more immediate and permanent, with the immediate and complete cessation of all in-water interactions between trainers and killer whales. It was an acknowledgement, tacit or otherwise, that the risk was simply too great. The media coverage, though perhaps less intense globally than the Brancho case, still raised uncomfortable questions for Laurel Parquet and the wider marine park industry. News reports delved into the park's past, unearthing previous incidents, including a 2007 attack by the Orca Keto on another trainer, which the park had also initially downplayed. This pattern of downplaying incidents fueled suspicion and public outcry. Animal welfare organizations, already vocal, renewed their calls for stricter regulations and a complete phasing out of orca captivity altogether, citing the inherent stress and potential for aggression in these intelligent and complex creatures when confined to artificial environments. Experts weighed in, citing scientific studies on the psychological impact of captivity on large marine mammals. Protesters gathered outside park gates, holding signs demanding "Free the orcas." Internally at Laurel Parquet and SeaWorld, there would have been intense scrutiny of safety protocols, incident reports, and the overall management of their ORCA programs. Internal investigations, often confidential, would have sought to understand every minute detail leading up to the attack. The deaths of Alexis Martínez and Dawn Brancheau served as tragic catalysts, forcing a long overdue reckoning with the risks, the ethics, and the very future of keeping killer whales in captivity for human entertainment. The public reaction, though perhaps more muted in the case of Alexis, due to less intense global media attention, nonetheless contributed to a growing awareness and disquiet about the potential dangers involved in these highly unnatural interactions, chipping away at the industry's image of harmless entertainment. In the wake of the tragedy, the laughter and cheers that once echoed around the ORCA tank at Laurel Parquet were replaced by a profound, haunting silence, a constant reminder of the young life lost. Alexis Martínez, a man who had dedicated his life to the ocean's giants, driven by a deep love and respect for them, became a stark symbol of the inherent risks involved in this unique and often perilous profession. His death, though perhaps less globally recognized than others, serves as a chilling testament to the immense power and unpredictable nature of these magnificent apex predators when placed within the artificial confines of captivity. It's a brutal reminder that even the most meticulously trained animal, even one that has formed a profound bond with its human handler, still carries within it the wild, untamed instincts of its species. The ocean's true rulers cannot be entirely controlled, cannot be fully domesticated, and sometimes with tragic consequences, they remind us of that fundamental, terrifying truth. Their power, their intelligence, their sheer will to be free. These are forces that will always challenge the boundaries we impose. And in that challenge, sometimes, lives are shattered forever.